So, this stage feels more like being in a circus, but I promise no wild animals today. But I've been asked to keep walking around so that every one of you can enjoy all the speakers today. My name is Lutz Kohler, I'm 9 years with Google, and I lead our go-to-market efforts for Google Cloud Search in Europe. As you can see from the lineup on the other slides up, where's the title slide? So as you can see from the lineup, we've got quite a number of speakers today, limited to 50 minutes. I'm afraid we won't have time to go for Q&A, but we will all be around after the session. If you have any questions, please feel free to address it as we speak. So now Okay, so the talk is broken down in 3 pieces. First of all, what enterprise search is about. Well, most likely you already know, otherwise you would not be here, hopefully. The second part, and this is going to be a really short part, what is cloud search about? What is the idea of the product, and what is the notion of it? The most important part today is all about the other speakers. It's not about me. It's about showing you what other customers and partners have successfully done with the product in the last couple of months. So I guess every one of you heard about that, Google's mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. The way we fulfill that mission has dramatically changed over the last 20 years. We started with providing 10 blue links, and basically you got an idea, is this the right link? But often you had to go back to the search page. Today, in an ideal world, you get a direct answer to your question, or you get a knowledge card shown. And this is what Google Search is on the web about today. But what about the reality for your enterprise data? And a lot of research shows that what we have made a reality on the public web is far from being a reality for your enterprise and for your data. And you will hear from clients today how they addressed and how they solved this challenge using Google Cloud Search. And it's not that the challenge has become any easier over the last couple of years. With the introduction of cloud-based solutions, hosted platforms, the solution has become even more complex. Because, for example, Google used to have a product called the Google Search Appliance. But why would you put an appliance behind your firewall if most of your data is no longer sitting behind your firewall, but it's hosted by public or private cloud providers? So as much as I had to see this product go after more than 15 years, the more I believe that only a cloud-based solution is able to address the needs and grow with the challenging demand for enterprise search. And it's even more important if your employees are not sitting at their desk and maybe are able to ask a more senior colleague about the answer. It's about that guy in the elevator shaft that only has his mobile phone with him, trying to access a catalog database or another system, trying to help him to get the elevator back into operation as quick as possible. So the idea of Google Cloud Search is to bring 20+ years of expertise in public website search to your company and to your company's data. And there's one thing that is completely different from the web, and that's the part in the middle. It's all about privacy and security. All information on the web per se, like it or not, is public. If you publish something, we're going to find it, and maybe you can't get rid of it even if you like so. With your company data, a search engine is only as good as it's able to keep with existing security and privacy mechanisms. If a search engine shows you a search result that you are not entitled to see in the source system, the system is broken, and most likely you're going to immediately shut down that platform. So privacy and security is in the heart of what Google Cloud Search makes stand out. So let me quickly walk you through how we address the need. Your data might be sitting wherever it is, behind the firewall, with a public or with a private cloud provider. And you don't need to move your data to make cloud search a reality for your company. Your data stays where it is. And in order to achieve that, we provide a so-called connector-based framework. A connector is a small piece of code that sits as close to the data source as possible. And the connector has two jobs to fulfill. The first one is to understand what is the meaning, what is the logic of your data. Because your database implementation might look very different to one we've seen with another client. And the second job is to understand the underlying security and authorization mechanism for that specific data source. So once something is pushed into the Google index, it's made sure the index knows exactly who is allowed, who is able to access it. But what about so-called unstructured data? What about the latest recording from a training video? What about the transcript from one of your call center agents? What about all these pictures from your marketing department? And this is where the real power of Google Cloud Search kicks in. By adding what we call a pipeline approach and leveraging other Google Cloud Platform services, you get the full ability not only to search for structured data from PDFs, PowerPoint, Word files, but any kind of unstructured data. And you will see how that looks in one of our demos later today. And this is what we think makes Google Cloud Search so powerful, and as you will see later in some demos, pretty easy and quickly to implement. So how do we make it as user-friendly as possible? You're able to ask Cloud Search in natural language. So like in this case, someone is looking for action movies that have Tom Hanks as featuring as an actor. Google Cloud Search will automatically understand the notion and the meaning of that query, will basically map it to the internal language, and you will get the immediate answer to your question. But we're not going to stop there. We will go further. Next year, we will add so-called answer cards, something I shown at the beginning that is already a reality on the web. And imagine how more powerful your employees will be if they get beyond 10 blue links and they get an immediate answer to the question they ask, like, how many vacation days have I left? And the answer is 20. When we originally launched the product, and we did that, by the way, roughly a year ago at Cloud Next in London, we decided not to activate machine learning services to get a baseline of how good our algorithms are. So about April this year, 6 months ago, we activated additional machine learning capabilities. And these are the improvements compared to the previous baseline that we have seen that machine learning can provide. And I want to focus on the right side, which is 30% less of searches that have 0 search results. Because this is the least thing you want to give to your employees. You search for something and you don't get a single result. So how are we going to make it as easy as possible to integrate? Google ships a handful of pre-configured connectors to the most common data sources. And we have some incredibly strong partners around the world, some of them in the audience today, like folks from Ration, who are specialized in connector development to make it as easy as possible to connect to as many data sources as possible. So as of today, we have more than 100 pre-configured connectors. And as you will see in some of the examples, I'm sure your systems are also covered. And we're not going to stop there. We are very close to announcing something that we think is most eminent. 70% of all searches within the Google intranet are about finding the right person. But if I mean finding the right person, it's not finding by first name, last name. It's about finding the recent product manager for a specific product. It's about finding someone with specific knowledge on a specific topic. And we are very close to announcing People Search in general availability. We've finished the beta program, so we are not allowed to have any more customers in that beta program. And you will soon be able, as part of Cloud Search and as part of G Suite, if you're a G Suite customer, to fully leverage Google People Search in that product. So with that, I'm just in time. Let me welcome the first speaker on stage, Martin Dotter from Airbus. Martin.
Thank you, Lutz. My name is Martin Dotter. I work in Airbus as a search architect. I will not spend mine and your time introducing Airbus to you. Chances are you arrived in one of our products here. Maybe not, maybe you did. What I want to talk about is about how we adopted Google Cloud Search as part of our general move to G Suite. And now when you tell people in the enterprise that you will be searching with Google in the future, the expectation of your users certainly looks like that, pretty much what Lutz has just told us. The reality, unfortunately, is a little bit less optimistic than what you see. What I would call the pie chart of truth pretty much looks like this, and I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that, and that's the situation with some of your organizations as well. To underfeed that a little bit, some insights from how our users were working with their existing legacy enterprise search. So we see a lot of single noun queries, which is difficult then for the search engine to make sense of. We see a lot of single noun queries among the most frequent queries, so people don't really interact with the search engine. To add insult to injury, most of those single noun queries are acronyms. And whether ECM then stands for Enterprise Content Management or Engine Condition Monitoring is in the eye of the searcher, essentially. So people don't use the filters, even though they learn how to do so on Amazon and elsewhere. The search scope isn't clear. So they don't really know what sources are connected to the enterprise search. And at least the way it was set up with us, we have tens of thousands of documents that show up in search results with titles like Presentation 1, Slide 1, title of presentation runs here between 2 lines, and similar things that make it extremely easy to figure out what's behind. So going to Google, will that make a difference? Going back to the search scope. On the web, everybody knows that you will find more or less everything. It's still not the case in the enterprise. You need to connect a lot of sources. On the web, you can trust Google to always bring on the first page of your results whatever you want to see. It's much more difficult if you look at enterprise documents and whether risk management refers to something your project management department has put up or whether it's supposed to be the document that you have been working on recently. It's difficult to gauge. We don't have a knowledge graph on the enterprise yet, I have to say. We're working on that. So giving the real answers, as Lutz showed us on the web, isn't possible in the enterprise yet. Search engine optimization. As a content provider out there, you do a lot of effort to make sure you're found on the first page of results in Google Web. On the enterprise, people couldn't care less. They're incentivized to provide content, but not that it's been found. So they don't care. Security, we had that, even if it's technically possible, it's the organizational burden you have to overcome that essentially application owners just yell at you when you try to index their precious data with a search engine. Our objectives are different between web and enterprise. On the web, we try to get an idea in most of the cases. On the enterprise, you're looking for one specific particular document and you're super upset if it doesn't show up in the first result page. And finally, no enterprise will have the resources to constantly work on the search engine performance and improve as Google does. So one might think it's a hopeless case, but in fact it wasn't. So we did make a difference. When we moved to cloud search, we gained a lot of things. What we gained. So for the first time in years, we really have one coherent search across our intranet, across all our collaboration spaces, across our shared network drives, and across our personal workspace. So we add search capability where it didn't exist before, and we fold like 12 search boxes into one. That is a big win. Thanks to G Suite, we miss no more metadata, so no more slide one search results. We automatically get OCR and searchable, the text and images, which is a big thing in the enterprise when you scan paper documents and you just throw them at GIFs in your intranet. We get natural language understanding, just as Lutz presented. We get a working autocomplete. So for the first time ever, I have to say, since I work in that field, and that's quite a few years now, I get more positive feedback on enterprise search than negative feedback. So definitely something achieved. However, we didn't get everything that we want to get. What don't we get? We don't get a new enterprise search across all our systems. So we still have to build connectors, we still have to connect all the data sources with all the technical and organizational obstacles that this means in an enterprise. We don't have query analytics yet, so even if it's transparent for Google perhaps, for us it's not. We don't know how people interact with our search. We don't have a knowledge graph yet. I'm pushing to get that done. Lutz, Ricardo, I hope you hear my message here. And we don't get what I would call user awareness and proficiency, and that's where I have to yell at Airbus. People still don't know how to interact with the search engine as it is. So moving to G Suite and search in G Suite, as always, it's not a matter of replacing a bad technology with a good technology. It's not a magic box that will solve all your problems. As always, it's people in the center. So it's a problem of mindset, it's a problem of way of working, it's a problem of change management. The way we addressed this basically was that we spent quite some time in understanding that new technology, soaking up feedback from early adopters, and from there then set out to train users and to improve search. And I will try to elaborate those 2 points a little bit. So training users, that meant we told them how they have to write documents, to think how they themselves would find that content again, and where to put the strong, the right keywords, so that the search engine actually picks it up and packs it into the, boost the relevance accordingly. Some of you probably still are familiar with the good old days of Windows workstations when a file name couldn't have a blank in it. So it's all ingrained into our memories to use underscores in file names. But that breaks tokenization. So we now have to tell people not to use underscores, use blanks. We had to tell them how to search and to find the content, which meant that they were confused from the web search, having one single search box. They thought search in mail, search in Drive, and cloud search all work the same. They don't. And the same for autocomplete. It's there, but it works differently in all these cases. To share some of the pain points we found so far in our, from our users. I'm from Germany, as you may guess from the name, and more so from the accent. German language is great at building compound words, just cramming as many things together as you ever want to. And in that example, as I work for a technical company, a turning shaft and a delivery of a turning shaft can be put into a single word. Now, when the guys then try to search for the German translation for turning shaft, they expected to also see the delivery of the turning shafts, and it doesn't happen. So something that needs and will be fixed, hopefully. Then you have loads and loads of camel cases, as in any big organization. So if you look at that, SAD, ATA, flow, what up front you recognize is a noun, flow, another adjective, SAD, and ATA is a well-known acronym in the aerospace world. However, for us, it means single aisle data flow. It's impossible for any technology to figure that out properly. So again, you have to tell users how to name their documents and what words to put into their documents so that they can be found properly again. Another interesting case, all those reference numbers you get from ticketing systems, from Salesforce, from ServiceNow, from whatnot, whatever you have. And it's tokenized actually between the letters and the numbers, yes, but what people are searching for are the last digits because that's what's actually unique to them. But 2137 won't find you any result in that case. So wildcard search hopefully will fix some of that problems. We're anxious to have that, but so far it's not the case. So that's for training users. Now to make search better and to improve search, Lutz already has spoken about answer cards, about getting answers. So in that example, I can ask, what is an A320? And I will get, well, some factoids, some snippets about an A320. Where I actually want to go is that I can ask my Google Cloud search internally for a part number, what is an whatever part number, and it comes back to me with that's the material, that's the aircraft that is actually built in, this is the relevant documents, this is the relevant processes, and that's the guy who actually designed that part. So to do so, we need to build a knowledge graph underneath so that we can infer all that relevant information. We started doing that. The example here is something that we've built already based on our documentation, which is complex enough for an aircraft, as you may imagine. So we built something that really links the dependencies between the various documents, that links processes to the documents, that links the people to the documents, that links application to the documents. And where I really want to go, what my vision is, and that I'm sharing with Google, and where we want to go is to integrate that with the natural language understanding of cloud search, so really to have a more search experience that is closer to what we all know from the web. And with that, thank you, and I will hand it back to Lutz.
Thank you, Martin. At Google Cloud, we have two fundamental principles. The first one is to listen to our users' feedback. So all the feedback that Martin just shared here publicly, of course, has also been shared with our product management and engineering team, and some of the stuff actually will make changes happen. The second part is we deeply believe in working together with partners, because as much as our organization is growing, we will never be able to do this alone. There will always be a network of partners that are closer to you geographically, that will have specific industry knowledge. And there are two sorts of partners. I already mentioned folks from Ration who have connector experience. I could have also mentioned folks from Accenture and Search Technologies, who for many years had been out there providing connector technology. So I would like to welcome next two of our partners here from the UK on stage, who will walk you through some examples what they have done with the product. Let me first welcome Mahmood from ECS on stage.
Thank you, Lutz. Right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mahmood, Nasir, and I work for a company called Extended Content Solutions. And we are a specialist search implementation partner for Google Cloud and various other technologies. We have been partnering with Google for a long time, and we have a lot of experience in this space to deliver useful and easy-to-use search projects for all types of businesses. And one of the key challenges we have always seen is that people have this basic issue of lots of information in the organization and not being able to knit it together and present a unified view to most of their users whose requirements are slightly different depending on which department or what their line of business application is. And as Martin talked about, the user adoptability is a major issue. And one of the things we pride ourselves in understanding what people's requirements are and try and create a user experience and search experience that actually makes these simple systems usable for them. Okay. And our key driver at the moment always is to make sure that we are delivering useful and easy-to-use solutions. So as you can see, client satisfaction is our major criteria. Okay. And today what I'll do is I'll talk to you a bit about one of the projects we delivered early in the year for one of our key customers, Birmingham City Councils. And as you might know, Birmingham City Council is one of the largest councils in the UK. And they basically provide services, local authority services, like education, transport, and media and other stuff, to over 1 million citizens across West Midlands, a major area in the UK. Okay? And obviously, it's a large organization. They've got lots of employees who work across 40 to 50 plus departments. And when they create some information, particularly for internal consumption or for public use, they want to share it in an easy and nice way of using that. And they were the Google GSA customer in past, and they were using GSA to deliver solutions for their search requirements. So essentially, they were using GSA technology and some custom stuff they had done to provide search for their intranet and public website. And they also have some services that they provide through their SAP portal for things like, say, children's services and school portal and the HR system that they use internally. So their problem was they had a GSA, and that was going to be expired, and they really needed to move on to a new platform as quickly as possible. And they had 5 applications to migrate. And we are now talking about, say, January this year, when Google had announced cloud search, and the time to implement was very short. And we had to make sure that this project, migration project, was completed within 12 weeks. And if you think about their basic process, like most organizations work, they needed to have everything done in 8 weeks, so 4 weeks of QA and other system processes that they need to go through had to be done. So the time we were given were really 8 weeks to really implement quite a complicated migration project, as you can appreciate. And needless to say that we had a look at cloud search. We also looked at some other technologies as well. And cloud search actually did deliver all the functionality that we thought they needed. So we basically took the challenge on. And I'm pleased to say that we managed to deliver the cloud search, the search experience as they had in their core systems, according to their spec and the demand. There was no disruption to any service, and it was a live system that was received quite well with both technology partners, which were city councils, technology team, and the business users across the business. Okay? Now, as you can appreciate, these number of systems obviously means that there's going to be some technology challenge, because GSA is not exactly the same. Cloud search is not the same as GSA used to be. So if you look at the right-hand side, the architecture, what we did was we basically connected all the content sources using Google connectors and provided a unified index to the web-based teams and also the SAP portal kind of implementation that they had. Early on in the project, we discovered that they had selected to go with custom search for their public website search, because if you know about cloud search, it's basically a security-based search engine. So you can't really search it without identity or something like that. So since they couldn't really use custom search because of their web CMS, we had to really come up with a solution to that. So we created a search proxy that allowed public search queries to be run on cloud platform without really having to ask for identities. Okay? The second challenge was that we had SAP portal search requirements that was quite key, and giving those kind of queries over to the cloud search was quite easy task. However, getting the results back in the SAP portal-friendly format was a challenge. So again, proxy was used to really solve that problem as well. And as you can appreciate, with all those challenges, we deployed the solution in a number of weeks, and I'm glad to say that it was very successful. And I would say a key takeaway for me is that the Google Cloud Search platform is actually quite extensible, is performant, and I would say is quite resilient. And any of the things we want to do, we received a lot of support from Google product team, and I'm glad to say that some of our learnings were fed back into the product team's future developments. So I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to spend much time talking about all technology of it, but I'm around after this talk so we can have a conversation. So please welcome my colleague Gordon to talk about it.
Thank you, Mahmood. Afternoon, folks. My name is Gordon Sandemann from ECS. What I wanted to do this afternoon was actually just show you a demo of some work we've been doing with a media client of ours that was focused around trying to open up access to their audio archives. I'm really keen to share it with you because I actually think it's a brilliant example of how you can take the goodness of Google Cloud Search and by adding in other GCP services and ECS's Edge interface, you can address some really great use cases. So, to give you some background, our client works in the media space. They had a lot of audio sitting in a number of archives. Actually, a lot of it was interview and talking head type material. And there was an appreciation in the business that there was actually a lot of great knowledge stored in this audio. But the problem was that they had no way really to access it. So how do we make this audio more searchable? Well, we wanted to move beyond, say, tagging and categorizing the content and actually give users the ability to search on the spoken word. And we also wanted to do this in a way that didn't require some large upfront investment and a large investment to maintain it. So the platform that we put in place, which you can see on the screen, is fundamentally is a pipeline that is ingesting audio content into GCP. We then go through a process of normalizing it, then transcribing it using Google's speech to text before pushing it into Cloud Search. We then use Edge for users to search and consume that audio. Okay, I'm going to jump into the demo now. So this is the Edge interface. I should just tell you that Edge is a framework we've developed here at ECS, which is designed to sit on top of Cloud Search. And its primary purpose is really just to provide users with a really intuitive search interface. And it's packaged in a way that actually it's extremely quick to deploy and it's easy to customize. So before I do a search, I have one health warning that I need to put out. There is a small amount of demo content in here, which is UK public radio content. I'm afraid it's largely political in nature, and it's also about 6 weeks old, so it feels quite out of date. But anyhow, bear with me. So I'm going to search for Brexit readiness. And we see a fairly typical results page showing us relevant results. The other thing you can see with each result is we have a nice snippet which has been built based on our transcribed audio. Now, typically at this point, users would see something of interest and then click through on the result and go off to the underlying system to work with the audio. But actually what we have here is a audio player in line in the search, so actually users can review the audio without having to leave the search screen. So I'm going to go into this result here and play it.
You're listening to a podcast of the Today programme on BBC Radio 4. As the UK tries to work through its differences with Brussels to...
So you can see immediately that users can now review the audio and the transcription side by side. And actually this opens up all sorts of opportunities for them to navigate through the audio. We did a search on Brexit readiness. I can easily now jump through all occurrences of those search terms.
Brexit. That's according to the
Brexit. That's something we've had to address.
and distance sentence readiness report brought out by the government yesterday. And on top of that,
And equally, I can scan the transcript and play it from any particular point.
This is where,
Yes.
if you're a medical device manufacturer, you have...
And I could even go in and start doing my own searches on this transcript. So if I go in, for example, and search for no deal, I can then jump through
deal for that.
occurrences.
no deal.
Deal would be reached. We had Steve Mnuchin pouring cold water on that. So
Okay, one other feature that I wanted to touch on is we were very cognizant that obviously transcribing audio is not an exact science. You will always get errors, and in fact that holds true whether you're talking about a machine-driven process or even human transcription. But what we wanted to do was try and make it as easy as possible for editors to actually make changes to the transcription. And this was really about ensuring that we could improve transcriptions in an easy and lightweight as possible. And of course that feeds into improving the search index and the search experience and recall. So you may, if you were listening specific to that last bit of audio I was playing there, that it mentioned Steve Mnuchin, the US Treasury Secretary, who I think is still the US Treasury Secretary. And if you're particularly eagle-eyed, you'll notice that his surname has been mistranscribed. I'll even play it for you. So it says Mnuchin,
Mnuchin,
but it should be Mnuchin. So what I'm going to do is simply go in and edit that. And I've been panicking all week about whether I could actually spell this chap's surname. So I simply go in and make the edit, and then close out the view, and those edits are automatically submitted. So these edits are fed back into the search index, and if I search for Mnuchin, you can now see that the audio file we were just looking at is appearing in the results, and in fact you can even see on the snippet that it's got the very bit of text that we were just editing. So I'm going to wrap it up at this point, but before I invite Iggy on stage, I just wanted to give you a couple of highlights and takeaways, if you like. I mean, obviously, the first one, that cloud search is about making your business more productive by opening up access to your information to your users. And what you've seen today is, I think, a great example of where you can take cloud search and by extending it with GCP services and Edge, you can extend the reach of cloud search into rich media, which actually typically is very difficult to search. And of course, what's underpinning this is we've got the GCP machine learning services in there that are helping us understand the content. We have cloud search that's building out this consolidated, unified view of our audio. And then we have the edge interface that's allowing our users to search effectively and consume the audio. And of course, the last thing I would say is that, of course, this is all brought together without requiring any great investment in terms of people and time. So at this point, I'm going to invite Iggy on stage. Just while he's getting set up, to repeat what Lutz was saying earlier, we don't have a Q&A session at the end because I don't think we've got the time, but we'll all be available after this to discuss any of this further or talk more generally about cloud search. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Hi, everyone. My name is Iggy. I'm here from Appsbroker, and I'm really glad to see how many of you came today. So our last talk is about a sister technology to search, chatbots. And I imagine many of you know how chatbots could lead to search, but I'd like to see how many of you actually use chatbots in your everyday life. So just a quick show of hands. Who has used Siri, Google Assistant, whatever it would be today? Okay, quite a few, my kind of audience, good. So just before I move into talking about chatbots, I want to introduce Appsbroker very quickly. Appsbroker is Google's #1 partner in the UK in terms of GCP and G Suite revenues. So we're quite big here. And we had a really good year at Appsbroker. We've won a number of awards and are already on the Google's accreditation track. So doing very well. So chatbots. We have two groups accessing the application. This is just a quick overview of the architecture. We have the users that use the chatbot, and we have the admins that configure chatbots. They interface with a UI hosted on Google App Engine. And sorry, I apologize. Sorry, I'm going to have to cut.
Okay, okay, that's live. I hope can you? So he's not doing well. I'm sorry to hear. We will not be able to do that last part of the demo. If you can switch to Q&As. I'm not sure if you got folks with mics because we now got 5 minutes left. If you have anyone who has questions in the audience. So we will definitely be able to share the demo with you, but I don't have someone else to show that. So what I will definitely ask you, please leave your feedback on the app, and we have someone with a question over there. If I can welcome the other speakers on stage, please.
Hi there. My question was a simple one from a non-tech perspective. I've often asked the question of I'm not an IT guy, I'm more like a change guy. Often asked the question, can we have access to the search logs, what's going in from our internal workforce into all of our G Suite apps, and not even Google guys are able to tell me the answer to that question. And yet I think it's a gold mine that we should have access to. Can you comment on that, please?
So, as you can imagine, at Google, we really take the user privacy seriously. And this is even the case that if you're an existing enterprise client. So even the logs that we have now available within Cloud Search since a couple of weeks, Google internally took us a long time with our own legal and privacy department to publish that. Because we want to make sure your users, your end users, feel comfortable and safe with what even your approved admins have access to. So you're not the first one asking for that. We are a journey. We are on our way to the journey. It's well understood that you need more transparency and access, so we are actively working on that. But we wanted to make sure that by no means the end user's privacy is touched by that. So it's a very complex process within Google to get approval for that. But it's addressed, and you will see a lot of activities in that space next year. I hope that answers the question. Any more questions?
So it's
no.
It's one of those sessions.
Sorry. Is Google Search a paid add-on on top of G Suite, or is it part of the G Suite suite itself?
So if you're a G Suite Enterprise customer, you get a part of Google Cloud Search included in the license, but thanks for asking that. It's also available since 1 year as a standalone product. No need at all to be on G Suite.
So it doesn't matter how many connectors you're trying to connect to Cloud Search, it's one?
No, the license model basically is only driven by number of documents in the index. If you happen to be a G Suite customer, you don't pay for G Suite content. You only pay for what is called third-party content.
Yeah, I mean, I should maybe add there that the media client that we're working with is not a G Suite customer at all.
Yep. We got another question over here.
So how easy or difficult to manage or build a knowledge graph? So which is, I think, the key of make it success. And the second aspect is if all the products or the data are we manage within the Google's cloud's ecosystem, like cloud storage, BigQuery, or Bigtable, or all this kind of thing. How about the cost factor of it? Because we are already paying or Google for maintaining or keeping the data in cloud.
Okay.
So how the search will add to the cost if we have this service on top of it?
Okay, let me answer the first question about integrating a knowledge graph. I'm sure Martin asked you from Airbus to ask that question again. So, to be honest, even Google, with more than 100,000 employees, sometimes is not exactly aligned between product lines. So originally, the idea of the cloud search engineering team has to build their own knowledge graph and knowledge graph integration. And guess what? We found out another Google team, the Document Understanding AI team, is already working on a knowledge graph. So we had to go back, and what you will see anytime next year, no ETA that's given, is basically we will use the technology that is part of Document Understanding AI and make it part and available as cloud search. Because not a lot of customers on the globe are as experienced with knowledge graph as that guy from Airbus here, but you seem to be another one. The second question, as said, it's pretty easy and straightforward, and Gordon has shown it in his demo, how to integrate with other Google Cloud services like Google Cloud Storage or Spanner or BigQuery. However, it basically means there is a license cost against it. We will make it, I think, as affordable as possible to integrate as many data sources from BigQuery. Because you're right, a database can easily contain millions of records, which of course makes us happy. This is what we live for maybe. But we want to make it attractive, because at the moment the license model says a row in a database has the same cost as a 100 megabyte PDF. That does not make too much sense, so we are actively working on that. But at the moment, it would be on an individual basis to find a solution for that. So, one last question if we have one. If not, I would... Oh, there's another question.
Hi there. You were saying at the beginning that you honor the security of the documents. How is that actually done?
So first of all, there are two ways of security. The first one is to authenticate the user who does the search. This happens within Google Cloud Identity. So whatever authentication system you use, AD, whatever, we do the mapping using Google Cloud Directory Sync to make sure we know who the user is. At time of indexing, the connector will also copy what is called the access control list to a document or to a database to make sure every item in the index has an access control list entry. And at time of search, this is mapped. It's called early binding, which is pretty usual setup for search engines. So there's no way. You could still flag it public, but there always needs to be an ACL flag. With that, we are exactly in time. I would like to thank you for your time. I would like to thank the other speakers.
Thank you.
I must say, I hope that Iggy from Appsbroker is doing well. We will definitely check right after that. Thanks for all the technicians here in the background who had been working hard to make this happen. We wish you a great day at Cloud Next and see you again soon. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.